So I want to speak with you about knowing when it's time to move on and move forward. And this can pertain to just anything in life. Sometimes we are in situations that are not necessarily bad, but aren't really the most ideal for who we've evolved into. And I think what happens often is that most people don't pay attention to their evolutionary journey to know exactly what they've evolved into. And so they are still making plans based on just, you know, circumstances, and also too what they believe is going to be, the big thing for them. And I've certainly been in that situation, for sure. And even though I'm someone who actually does pay attention to my evolutionary journey, I really study my life pretty uh, religiously, in a sense. I am known as being the journalist of my experience, and it's something that I teach to others. So I do pay close attention and very intentional, but I often, well, I shouldn't say often, but I have also noticed that I too still have times where I have not thoroughly examined my evolution fully to know how to be best preparing for, for the next level. And though I'm someone, I can make shifts pretty quickly, significant shifts. But I have noticed that there are times, like I mentioned, and it is with anyone else as well, that no matter how evolved or masterful we become, there's always the opportunity to level up. We're not always as aware because sometimes we're too close to ourselves, that we aren't as connected to ourselves as we need to be able to be in tune with the progression of who we have become. And so this is a time where people are going to have to really pay close attention to their evolution, and also understand that the direction in which you're going is an unfamiliar territory, though as you come upon it, it will seem just right. But because it isn't a place that you've been or have experienced, then sometimes you don't really know initially what that looks like. And a lot of times we're still trying to prepare based on what seems to be still familiar to us, but there's something else that's calling us forward. So sometimes you can miss the opportunity of knowing when you actually should have moved on and been moving forward and progressing in new ways. And again, because the direction that you're going, you're not really as familiar with how to prepare for that next level. So the opportunities that get missed seem to not be as a fault of yours, in a sense, because there's not really been the awareness in terms of how would you even know to recognize this. Well, that's something that I want to focus on, as I'm talking about this, is that, sometimes you're not going to know, but I do believe that we come upon these, not necessarily roadblocks, so to speak, but there's something that lets you know, I'm preparing for this, and yes, I would love to see this come into fruition, but something's telling me there's something else. Maybe it hasn't come into fruition yet because there's another avenue, or there's just something else around this that's trying to get my attention. And so that's kind of an indicator there. If there's been something that's been long standing and it hasn't come into fruition, and you feel the urge to sort of do something to make it come into fruition, but then there's a part of you that knows something else is emerging here. It's all going to be okay. It's all going to turn out probably 10 times greater than what I am even imagining, but yet you don't know exactly, what to do. So when do you move on and move forward? And what is moving on really about? What is moving forward really about? It doesn't mean that you're actually really letting go of what you've been preparing, but you are sort of surrendering in the moment to allow a new way of success to present itself. And so the moving on is just moving on from doing things the way that you have been doing, and really maybe even preparing in the ways that you've been preparing. Maybe it's time to move forward to a new awareness, move forward just into being present with allowing this newer way or newer context to emerge and present itself. But in saying that, I will say that there are times where you actually do need to move on from situations. And again, this will be unique to every individual. You know, how do you know that? That's where getting present with your evolution, the evolution of your desires, taking time out to know who you have become and is what you've been preparing for. Is it still relevant to your evolution? It's served, for sure, because they say things from your past or even current situations, sometimes they make you and help you evolve into who you are becoming. But, in this case, in the present moment, now is the time to examine. Ask yourself, who have I actually become? And what I'm currently doing, what I'm preparing for, is this really the end all be all of what I want to bring into fruition? Or is there something more expansive? Is there something else that is emerging that I need to give my attention to, or I just need to create the space for the moment, maybe give a temporary pause on what I'm doing just to see if there's something else that, is trying to get my attention. And it could be that you get the best of both worlds, whatever you're working on, but also something else. So just knowing when to move on, when to move forward from, I would just say, just the routine of things, the daily grind, the trying to make certain goals happen, bring things into fruition just because that's what you've been preparing, that's what you've been planning. Again, you're going to have to be present to learn for yourself. Is it time to actually let this thing go completely, or give pause in the moment because there's something else that's emerging and it needs my attention now? And then maybe I can cycle back around to whatever I have been preparing for. And maybe all of this ties in. Maybe what I'm not giving my attention to is the missing piece, so to speak. And I need to, I need to focus on that right now and just see how things unfold. So that's just something that I wanted to just come forth and share, is take time to get present and know when you actually need to move on and move forward, or or what the context is around that. What does that even look like for you as it relates to your your situation? So just take time out to think about that. It's really important now to be focused there so that you can accurately prepare and move forward accordingly. And I guarantee you, when you make this subtle yet significant shift, this is where things will start to accelerate. So just take some time out and be present with who you have become so you can know exactly how you need to move on and move forward.